The night Daniel Harper found them, the rain was coming down so hard it blurred the streetlights into trembling halos. I had just finished a late shift at the warehouse and was turning onto his block when he saw a woman curled on the bus stop bench. Her coat was too thin, her shoulders shaking. Beside her sat a small boy, no older than 7. Standing so rigidly still, it was as if he believed that if he didn't move, the world might finally stop hurting them. Daniel slowed his truck, something in his chest tightening. He told himself he was tired, that he had his own problems. But when the boy lifted his face and Daniel saw the bruises blooming on the woman's cheek, he knew he wouldn't be able to sleep if he drove away. Her name was Mara. She said it quietly, as if afraid even her name might anger someone. The boy's name was Leo. Daniel didn't ask questions at first. He handed them his jacket, ushered them into his truck, and drove the short distance to his small rented house. It wasn't much: 2 bedrooms, peeling paint, and a porch that sagged in the middle, but it was warm. As a single dad raising his daughter Emily on a forklift operator's salary, Daniel knew what it meant to stretch kindness thin and hope it would still cover everyone. Mara flinched when Daniel reached for a kettle. She apologized too much, thanked him too often. As she sipped the tea he made, Daniel noticed the yellowing bruise at her temple and the faint fingerprint marks on her wrist. He didn't press her. When Leo finally relaxed enough to sit on the floor with Emily's old toy trucks, Daniel felt a quiet, stubborn resolve settle in his chest. Whatever had brought them to that bus stop, he would not be the one to send them back into the rain. Over the next few days, the truth came out in pieces. Mara had married into a wealthy family years earlier. But when her husband died suddenly in a car accident, everything changed. His parents blamed her. They accused her of being unworthy, of taking advantage. When she refused to sign documents she didn't understand, they turned cruel. The night she arrived at the bus stop was the night they finally threw her and Leo out. The bruises came from her brother-in-law, who said he was just trying to make her listen. Daniel listened without interrupting. He didn't know anything about wealthy families or legal documents. He knew about being cornered by life, about how easily people with power could crush those without it. He told Mara she and Leo could stay as long as they needed. He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world, though he lay awake later that night worrying about groceries, about space, about how he would make it all work. Emily adored Leo instantly. She shared her room without complaint, dragging out old blankets to make a fort. Leo, quiet and watchful, smiled for the first time when Emily taught him how to whistle using a blade of grass. Daniel watched them through the doorway, feeling both hope and fear. He had learned the hard way that good moments never last as long as you want them to. Mara tried to help around the house, cooking meals and cleaning, even when Daniel told her she didn't have to. Sometimes he'd catch her staring out the window, her eyes distant, her hands trembling. One afternoon, he found her crying softly in the laundry room. She apologized again, saying she was afraid they'd find her, afraid she'd never be able to protect her son. Daniel didn't know the right words, so he said the only true thing he had: "You're safe here, I promise." What Daniel didn't know was that Leo's father hadn't just been wealthy. He'd been the only son of a billionaire industrialist whose name dominated headlines and boardrooms. When Leo was born, his grandfather had set up a trust so vast it could change entire cities. But after his son's death, the old man retreated into grief, allowing others to take control of the family empire. Mara had been kept in the dark on purpose. The in-laws knew that if the truth ever came out, Leo would inherit everything. Trouble arrived in the form of a black SUV that idled too long at the end of the street. Daniel noticed it first, his instincts sharpening. Same SUV appeared again the next day, then the next. Mara went pale when she saw it. That night she told Daniel she couldn't stay, that she wouldn't put his family in danger. Daniel argued, his voice shaking with anger and fear. "You don't get to decide you're not worth protecting," he said. "Not in my house." The confrontation came on a Saturday morning. 2 men in expensive suits knocked on the door. They spoke politely, but their eyes were cold. They said they were there on behalf of the family. They offered money, then threats. Daniel stood in the doorway, his heart pounding, and told them to leave. When one of them smirked and mentioned calling the police, Daniel laughed bitterly. "Go ahead," he said. "I've got nothing to hide." What neither man expected was Leo stepping forward, clutching a worn photograph. It was a picture of his father holding him as a baby, standing beside an older man with sharp eyes. and a familiar face one Daniel recognized from magazine covers at the grocery store. The men went silent. One of them cursed under his breath. The next few days were a blur. Lawyers arrived, then social workers, then a frail old man with silver hair and a face carved by regret. The billionaire patriarch collapsed into a chair when he saw Leo. He cried openly, apologizing over and over. He confessed that he had trusted the wrong people, that he had failed his daughter-in-law and grandson. He promised to make things right, to protect them now. Mara didn't rush into his arms. She stood tall, bruises fading, but her resolve stronger than ever. She laid out her conditions. No more control, no more secrets. Leo would grow up knowing love, not fear. The old man agreed, tears streaming down his face. When it was over, when the lawyers left and the SUV drove away for the last time, Daniel sat alone on his porch, the weight of it all crashing down on him. He felt relief, yes, but also a strange grief. He had opened his home, his heart, and now it felt empty. He wondered if he had just been a temporary shelter, a footnote in someone else's extraordinary story. Mara found him there at dusk. She sat beside him, her voice steady. She told him she hadn't decided what came next, but she knew one thing for certain. Daniel had saved them when no one else would. She told him that money couldn't repay that kind of kindness, and that she hoped, whatever happened, he would remain part of their lives. Months later, Daniel stood in a crowded school auditorium, watching Leo perform in a small play. Emily waved wildly from the front row. Mara sat beside Daniel, their shoulders touching. Life hadn't become perfect. Daniel still worked long hours. Mara was still healing, but it was fuller, brighter. The billionaire grandfather had kept his word. He funded shelters for abused women, restructured his company to include worker protections, and quietly ensured Daniel's mortgage disappeared. But the greatest gift wasn't money. Was the knowledge that a simple act of compassion, offered on a rain-soaked night, had broken a cycle of cruelty that wealth alone never could. Daniel looked at his daughter, at the boy who had once stood frozen at a bus stop, and felt something powerful bloom in his chest.